Today we'll be talking about modesty. This is going to be a very short video, but I wanted to talk about because since I'm talking about fashion, modesty is going to be something that I take into consideration, especially as a Christian woman. Oftentimes we have been scrutinized by the things that we wear by either our fellow females in the church or the males in the church. And so I just want to kind of give my perception of how I would interact with modesty, especially as a Christian woman. So if I was to look up Merriam-Webster, Oxford Dictionary, modesty is the quality or state of being unassuming in the estimation of one's abilities. And in Merriam-Webster, it is the correct or social acceptable behavior and clothes representing traditional cultural values. It is also the quality of not being too proud or too confident about yourself or your abilities. And so when I think about modesty, I often think of humility because in the Bible it doesn't necessarily use the word modesty, but we see the concept being permeated throughout the Bible. It talks about clothing yourself in righteousness, reflecting yourself in a way that reveals God's nature. And so when I think of modesty, I think of Christ. I think of the way that He would want me to interact with other people, how He would want me to be perceived by other people. You know, regardless of whether you wear the shortest skirt or not, does not mean that now it permits a man or anybody else to touch you in a way that they should not. But it does give some sort of attention that honestly gives off a bit of, like, you're obviously going to get some sort of ramifications. And so for me, for a long time, I sort of struggled with my perception of modesty because it came from a place of fear to start off with, because I was really scared to show my legs and my arms because I knew as a young child, even though I was developing, I was getting stares at older men, and it made me not want to reveal any of like my shape, my form, because I didn't know what it would look. I didn't know what to think or what would happen to me if I revealed such things. And then later on realizing that my mindset shouldn't be skewed in that way just because of the trauma or whatever it is that I went through when I was younger. But even now in my fashion, it's very preppy, but sometimes I feel like sometimes preppy sort of clothes, they kind of give off childlike, and I am childlike, but they sometimes they can make you look like a child. And unfortunately for some men in this world, they are attracted to children, and so it made me feel weird about even dressing preppy. But obviously rebuke all of those things in the name of Jesus, because He did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power and of a sound mind. And so I'm able to walk comfortably in the clothes that I do wear now because of the knowledge that I've gained from Christ and the way that He has changed the formats that the world tried to make me believe that I had to dress in a certain way to be sociable or to, I don't know, gravitate to certain people. And that is not what we're supposed to do. Like, even I think Paul said, I think it was in Galatians, like, who would we be if we were serving the world or something like that? Like, we would not be, if we cared about the judgment or the perception of others, we would not be able to call ourselves children of God. We would not be able to call ourselves servants of God, because the one person whose opinion that should matter the absolute most is Christ. And that is something that I want reflected in the clothes that I'm wearing. And I hope that this video will also help other people who are dealing with certain situations where they felt like the clothes that they were wearing weren't modest enough. Of course, everyone has their own convictions, but I think as women of God, or just anybody, when it comes to modesty, I think it should be taken with care. It's not careless, it's gentle, and yeah, it's a reflection of God's love. We honor our bodies because of God. Our body is not our own, we come from the Father. And so reflecting God's love, reflecting God's honoring God by loving ourselves and taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're not actively trying to represent ourselves in a way that would steer people away from acknowledging that we are children of God is important. And yeah. Modesty is a godly attitude that starts within the heart. It is more about God and less about yourself. Some of the scriptures that I wanted to bring up that talk about or reflect on modesty, the concept of modesty, is starting from 1 Peter 5:5-6. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility towards one another. In Philippians 2:3-8. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. 1 Peter 3-4. Your beauty should not come from outward adornments, such as elaborate hairstyles and wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. And 1 Timothy 2:9. I also want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety. And so, all in all, what is this trying to say? Modesty is hand in hand with humility. And humility comes from reflecting on God, not ourselves, humbling ourselves down, thinking less of ourselves and more about God. And that is what we all need to do, because when there's no humility, there comes pride. And when you're proud, you feel entitled to certain things. And we're not entitled to anything, because we brought nothing to this world. Okay, so, and we leave without anything in this world. Everything turns into dust. And so it's very important to not stick to materialistic values and care about the things that God cares about. Having good deeds, caring for one another, looking out for another, adorning yourself with godly gifts, because they are the things that are eternal and everything can perish away.